Hi everyone, I'm Cheryl Mahoney. I'm the author of the Guardian of the Opera trilogy. First book, Nocturne, is coming out in June. But today I'm here to talk about other versions of the Phantom of the Opera. This is part 2. I left off with part 1, talking about Andrew Lloyd Webber's 1986 Phantom of the Opera musical that is the powerhouse among Phantom versions. It opened in London 1986, came to Broadway 1987, and is the longest running show on Broadway. It's still playing in both places, which is awesome because I've seen it a lot of times. But today we're going to keep moving forward through time to the next one, chronologically speaking. I call this the David Stoller version. I don't know if it has some other proper title, but it's Phantom of the Opera with David Stoller as the Phantom. And it's another musical, not the Webber musical. To be honest, the music never resonated with me very much, but I like David Stoller as the Phantom. He's the most arrogant Phantom, while, being consumed by self-loathing and all the issues that the Phantom always has. But he's also very arrogant about what he can do, and I enjoyed that a lot. Also, this is, I think, the only filmed version that has the Daroga, who is in my story as well, and it's fun to see him on the screen. Now, let's see, that was about 1990. We're still around 90 with Susan Kay's Phantom of the Opera. I love this book so much. This is one of my top 5 favorite books ever. I don't just mean Phantom, I mean ever. And it's just gorgeous. It's the story of the Phantom's life from before he's born to after he dies. The breadth of it, the depth of the character, of how she explores him is wonderful. It's a little bloody, it's a little bit dark in places, not too gratuitously, just a little bit, but it's beautiful. Gorgeous book. I have this old battered paperback. I bought it when it was out of print and it was horrendously expensive, but it was so worth it. I took this book with me when I went to Paris for the first time, and I sat on the steps of the Opera Garnier and read Susan Kay's Phantom. I was very pleased to be able to do that. Someday when I grow up, I would like to be Susan Kay. I never will be, but I aspire to be Susan Kay. So that was a very good version. We had a good few years here because then we came to the Charles Dance version just a year or so later. And this is also an excellent version. You can see there, Charles Dance playing the Phantom. This is a very witty Phantom. There's some very clever lines in here. Let's see, for example, he hears Carlotta singing for the first time and says, "My God, the place really is haunted." It's wonderful. He delivers it better. This has a really interesting relationship between the Phantom and Christine as well. Pretty much after Webber, almost all of them are romantic Phantom and Christine relationships, which this one is as well. But I actually believe in them having a genuine friendship in this one, which is not the case in others. The other relationships are far more fraught. This is one of the few Christines I really like. I have some Christine issues, but that's a topic for a different video, possibly. We'll see. So the Charles Dance Phantom, the same people who wrote it, also did a musical. I have the soundtrack here. I have not been able to see the play, but I've seen the non-musical version, and I've listened to the soundtrack for the musical version, and there's a lot of overlap. So I almost feel like I've seen it, although that is like wish list, bucket list. If I could see any play, this might be the one. There's a few others, but this one's high on the list. I wish I could see. The music is quite good. There's some beautiful things in it. I enjoy some of the songs a lot. There's some beautiful ones between the Phantom and Christine that are quite beautiful. Again, not Webber, different musical. There are others besides Webber. We then come to, we're still in the 90s, we come to Angel of the Opera with the Phantom of the Opera meeting Sherlock Holmes, because that's an obvious pairing. I mean, why not? They are actually the same time period. The managers of the opera contact Holmes to get help dealing with this weird mystery of the Phantom. So, I mean, there's some logic to it. You sort of get it. I have mixed feelings about this one. The narrator is not Watson. It's a different narrator who starts out like on page 1 telling us that Watson got everything wrong about Holmes, or a lot of things wrong about Holmes, and that just bothers me on a very deep level. So I'm not sure I ever entirely got past that. I like the portrayal of the Phantom, though. The things that were done with the Phantom were quite good. I didn't like the portrayal of Sherlock Holmes quite as well, so it's mixed. Funnily enough, while we're on this one, there is another version, another book, where Sherlock Holmes meets the Phantom of the Opera. That is The Canary Trainer by Nicholas Meyer. I've read it. I don't own that one. That one, I liked the portrayal of Holmes better. I didn't like the portrayal of the Phantom as well. It's actually the only one I've seen that made the Phantom even crazier than he was in LaRue. So, you know, choices. It's interesting. It's not where I would have gone. It's not where I did go, obviously. It's also interesting to read. So if you like Sherlock Holmes and the Phantom, there's The Canary Trainer and there's The Angel of the Opera, because yes, there are 2 books with that premise. Go figure. We come next to Masquerade by Terry Pratchett. This is another of my very favorite books, top 5. It's completely different than Susan Kay. Susan Kay is gorgeous and heartbreaking. Masquerade is the funniest book I have ever read. Terry Pratchett is the funniest author I've ever read. Discworld is his funniest series, and Masquerade is the funniest book in his Discworld series. So there's no higher level we can take this to, for me. I laugh out loud reading it all the time. I really enjoy this version. It's a much looser connected. You can see the original story. There's a lot of other things in here as well, but it's delightful. Crazy funny things. Mine actually just falls open on one of my favorite pages. I kept opening it there and the spine broke, where the Phantom is writing maniacal laughter in a little note, because, you know, why not write down your maniacal laughter with 5 exclamation points, of course. So this is great fun, very, very funny. I also quite enjoy Pratchett's interpretation of Christine, because his Christine is really, really dumb. I mean, really dumb. But she is also very, very clever in very specific ways when it comes to getting what she wants. Now, in my version, Christine is not dumb, but she is very, very clever in certain ways, and I should stop talking about it because I'm going to give things away. So, Masquerade, hilarious. I'm going to put it down and move on before I give spoilers for my own story. Next up, 1999 this was. Frederick Forsythe, The Phantom of Manhattan. You may have heard about Love Never Dies. That didn't come out for another 10, 15 years after this. It is Webber's musical sequel to Webber's original Phantom of the Opera musical. It's sort of based on this. He changes a lot, but it's loosely based on this. This is meant to be a sequel to the Webber musical. The Phantom moves to New York after the original events. And in this book, he stops worshiping the god of music and starts worshiping the god of money. And I feel like you're probably giving me a strange look through the camera, because when I talk to people about this is about as far as I get before they start giving me a strange look. And I'm like, I know. I bought this in a library sale. It was, I think, $2. It was a good deal. It's nice to have another one in the collection. I wouldn't recommend it as the first one to pick up, not only because it's a sequel, as you might gather. We'll move on. So we're back around sort of to Webber again. Not in the same place. We're definitely back to Webber though. This is the Webber musical movie version with Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum there. And this one came out very soon after I read the original Gaston Leroux. It was my senior year of high school, and this one came out shortly after. It was 2004? 2005? It was in December. It must have been 2004. So I enjoyed this one when it first came out. I have more mixed feelings now. There's just some choices that were made. I actually have a theory that the whole thing is from Raoul's point of view, and he's an unreliable narrator, and that's why some of the things in this that are happening are happening. That also might be a subject for another video. Suffice to say, it's an interesting opportunity to see something sort of like the Webber musical. And I like how Gerard Butler looks in the mask. I enjoy that part of it. It has that going for it. However, fortunately, I think, a few years later, let's see, it must have been, oh, here I am trying to do math. I shouldn't be trying to do math on camera. Well, anyway, a few years after, 2011, they brought out the 25th anniversary version of the Phantom of the Opera Webber musical. This one is much closer to the stage play. There's a few tweaks because they had to move it to the Royal Albert Hall, bigger than Her Majesty's Theatre in London, but it's basically very close. Ramin Karimloo plays the Phantom. He's a version that I quite enjoy, and I highly recommend this one, especially if you want to see the Webber musical and you don't happen to be in London or Broadway or have a touring company near you. This will give you something very close to that experience. There's also a lot of fun stuff afterwards. They bring out Sarah Brightman, they bring out Andrew Lloyd Webber, they bring out Michael Crawford, and I so wanted him to sing Music of the Night, but he didn't, and that's okay, it's still good. I really enjoy this version. I saw this one in theaters when it was first being released, and that was really fun as well. It was one of those Fathom events thing. I also saw Love Never Dies Fathom events. Yeah, I don't have a copy of that. We'll just leave that be. So that brings me pretty much up to the present. That got me to the end of my bookshelf. Lots and lots of versions of the Phantom of the Opera because there are so many out there and I don't have all of them. There are others. I really enjoy seeing what people do with this story. I enjoy seeing how different people interpret the Phantom character, especially. And Christine, and Raoul, and Meg Giry, although she's not in most of them. She is very important in mine, though. And sometimes you can see her a little bit in other versions. I feel when I'm approaching a story with this much history, I want to approach it with respect. And I do respect and honor all those versions that came before. Even the ones that I poke a little bit of fun at. I like seeing what they did. I enjoy seeing them. I hope you will decide to see my version that will be out June 5th. You had to know I was going to talk about it a little bit. The first book is a retelling. The second and third books then go beyond the events of the first book. And it's largely from Meg Giry's point of view, which none of these versions were. And I think I do some things that are a little bit different than any of the versions I've seen. So I hope you'll check it out. Again, I'm Cheryl Mahoney, and I blog at marvelloustales.com if you'd like to find out more.